Thank you, Manild. You chose a reading that I had written out for myself. Excellent. So welcome to the study of life and the nature of the laws of thought. The conception that we live in a spiritual universe and that God is in us, around us, and for us, and there is nothing against us. You know, when we think of our topic for the month is mindful thinking. And today, actually, it's mindfulness for the maverick. That's the topic. Mindful thinking is for today, this week. I want to say that Ernest Holmes gave a wonderful definition for spirituality. I know you've heard this before, but we can't hear it enough because until we learn to apply this in every day, we need to be reminded. And he said, spirituality is natural goodness. God is not a person. God is a presence personified in us. Spirituality is not a thing. It is the atmosphere of God's presence, goodness, truth, and beauty. End of quote. Think about that. Spirituality is natural goodness. If we try to stay relevant to world affairs right now, how are we as humanity, as human beings, applying this definition? As spiritual beings, we are spiritual beings having a human experience, but we are wrapped up so much in the human experience, it seems like we have forgotten our spirituality. We've forgotten our essence. We've forgotten where we came from and who brought us here, how we got here, and what are we really here to do? What are we here to be? Why did God create us in the first place and put us on planet Earth? There's only one answer to that question, and that is to shine the glory of God in our uniqueness, in our presence, in the way we are, our uniqueness. So think about this. There are no two people with the same fingerprints. That's how different we are and how similar we are. So that each of us brings our little differences into expressing God's great variety, limitless variety. You know, Holmes talks about variety coming out of unity. That's what we're here to do. We're supposed to present the variety of God, each of us in our own unique specialness. So when we look at what was read to us already, I want to pick up where the second line of it, it says, from the Bible we have the assurance, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. The old Greek philosophers understood something of the meaning of thought. What we expect, said Aristotle, that we find. That's the power of expectation. Expectancy speeds progress. What we wish, we receive. It's wonderful to think that we can wish something from our hearts and all of a sudden there it is. But that's the way we are made. There is nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. And then Holmes says, it's one thing to know a principle, another thing to apply it. How do we apply the principle in our lives is the bottom line of all of this. Because when we don't apply it, we act as if we've never heard it. We act as if it doesn't have any meaning in our lives. We act as if it should not have been said in the first place because it went in one ear and came out the other faster than it went in. So how are we to successfully live this life as the presence of God in its uniqueness? Think of yourself as the presence of God in its specialness. God specialized when we came. When you came, God specialized. There's no one else made exactly like you. Just think about that. There'll never be a duplicate of you. You are not a duplicate of anyone else who went before you. You may resemble, you may have some outer likeness of people who are in the family, but the uniqueness remains individual. Individuality is real specialness. So at the bottom of that reading, it says, there is nothing either good or bad. Sounds like what he's talking about here is mindful thinking. That's our topic today, you know, mindful thinking. What does mindful thinking mean? A focused thought is more effective than an unfocused thought. A trained thought is more effective than an untrained thought. We must be mindful about and in our thinking. You know, our thinking sets the tone for our life. What do you think about most of the day? You might want to do a little checkup every night before you go to bed. Ask yourself, what have I been thinking of most of today? And think about the thoughts that went through your mind that you paid attention to that became the dominant thought of your day. James Allen said this. He says, they themselves are makers of themselves by virtue of the thoughts which they choose and encourage. Should I say that again? James Allen. They themselves are makers of themselves by virtue of the thoughts which they choose and encourage. So it appears that habit is caused by encouragement of a certain behavior, of a certain way of thinking. And that's what makes a habit. And habits are not easy to break. They're like a cable with several strands. And they don't break as easily as a simple string by itself. An interesting concept. What does it mean to encourage thought? I'll tell you. The constant repetition of the same thought being to create, or rather begin to create a manifestation. The constant repetition of the same thoughts begin to create a manifestation, a demonstration. A thought encouraged must manifest. How many times have we repeated the same thought, the same idea, the same language over and over, and then we're dissatisfied with what life looks like? As if we didn't expect it. But you see, the subconscious mind, the subjective creative essence of life, takes orders from our constant thinking, our persistent regular thinking, and our repetition. The repetition sets a tone and sets a track on which the creative essence flows and produces a manifestation, a demonstration. In his book, This Thing Called You, Dr. Holmes writes this. He says, when the time comes that nothing goes from you other than that which you would be glad to have returned, then you will have reached your heaven. That's an incredible way to say you receive what you think about. He says this, when the time comes that nothing goes from you other than that which you would be glad to have returned, then you would have reached your heaven. So heaven is right within us to speak it out, that it would show up in the tangible experiential world. Heaven is in you. The kingdom of heaven is in. Jesus taught that. Where's the kingdom of heaven? It's not somewhere in the stratosphere. It is right inside of us. It is in our process of thinking causes us to have an experience. And Holmes says, when the day comes that we would get what we want and realize that, we are in heaven. Nothing goes from us other than that which we would have returned. How would you like what you have been saying about life, about the world, about everything? How would you like that to return to you? Give that a thought, yeah? And then think about what you've been saying about life, what you've been saying about the state of the world, what you've been saying about people who are in leadership. And are you surprised about what's manifesting in your life? You shouldn't be, because you're working with a principle. And a principle doesn't reject, a principle obeys. It's an obedient servant. So thinking from the heart is the most powerful use of the law that causes a demonstration to take place quickly like that. Thinking from the heart. You know why? Because the heart is where the energy is. The heart is where the essence of movement begins. All demonstrations are complete when what you set in motion through the law of mind appears in form. The power of intention is a demonstration of your faith in the invisible substance of life. You know, these are not words just for the sake of words. They have meaning when we listen to them. That's why on page 137, read by our good friend, he says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So what thoughts are you holding in your heart? Have you given that any thought? What thoughts have you been holding in your heart? Thoughts of fear, thoughts of uncertainty, thoughts of insufficiency, thoughts that you're never going to be able to have your dream, thoughts about how difficult life is being made by those who have the power over you. You're the only person with the power over you. Don't give that power away to someone else. They'll abuse you. Accept that you are in charge, because you are. There's no other body in charge. So what thoughts are keeping in your heart? Remember, the heart is essential to life. The heart is essential to life, and what is held there tends to manifest. What you hold there speaks of the quality of your life. What you hold in your heart determines the quality of your life. Faith or fear, worry or drudgery, the heart is the center of emotion and feelings. When are we going to learn and remember this, that when we speak something, we are energizing it with heart energy, essential to the expression of life. So if we say something negative, you know what? We've just given life to negativity to manifest in our lives. Powerful quote from the Science of Mind says, feeling is at the center of the universe and reflected through man's consciousness, sheds its glow wherever the thought travels. Law governs its action, and God himself fulfills its promises. That's on page 414-4. That means 404 pages, paragraph 4. I cannot overstress the importance of mindful thinking. Mindful thinking. If you have to say, hold on a minute, I will think about that for a second, you're making the right choice because you're giving it some conscious thought. Don't rush to think about something because everyone else is talking about it, because that may or may not be the kind of life expression you want to have. Mindful thinking is essential to a life of peace, to a life of love, to a life of joy, to a life of prosperity. Mindful thinking helps us to avoid chaos. Think about, what thoughts are you encouraging through your unconscious repetitions? If there's something there that you don't want to experience, you know what? Pour a little water in on that and wash it out. Wash out the thought, because the thought is going to produce an effect. So I am declaring for you a life of mindful thinking and of watchful attention to the unconscious encouraging of unhappy thoughts. Should I say that again? I declare for you a life of mindful thinking and of watchful attention to the unconscious encouraging of unhappy thoughts. You know, I know you are blessed. There's no one who's not blessed unless they declare that they're not blessed. You are blessed. You are surrounded by a peaceful, happy, meta-mental atmosphere. A mental atmosphere. You are blessed. You're surrounded by that. So let us all begin today to be mindful thinkers, to be mindful, conscious thinkers that bring a high quality of life, one that fulfills our highest desires. Are you with me on that? I want you to join me, because that's where my intention is. More and more I study, the more I read, the more I have to prepare for Sunday mornings, the more I know that people are listening to what I'm saying, because they think I know what I'm saying. I'm saying what someone who came long before me left things for me to remember, things for me to share with you, things for me to think about my own life in a way that I can live. You are surrounded by a peaceful, happy, meta-mental atmosphere. Susan sometimes sings for us, love is what you are made of. Love is what you belong to. Love, love, love. Remember that. Love is what you are made of. Love is what you belong to. Love, love, love. Love is all there is. The rest we made up. It is not an accident that we are here today in our evolution of this thing called life. It's not an accident. We're not here by accident. We're here by conscious choice. I hope. I hope you're not here just because you accidentally had a misthought. I hope you're here because you chose to be here. And you chose to be here because you needed to hear what we are all contemplating on right now. You are here because all of us needed you here to become the group, the kind of people, the kind of thinking that can indeed create the shift that you want to see outside of yourself. Love, love, love. A lack of mindfulness, a lack of mindful thinking has too many undesirable consequences. So here's something to think about. When the time comes that nothing goes from you other than that which you would be glad to have returned, then you will have reached your heaven. Feelings is at the center of the universe and reflected through my consciousness to man's consciousness, sheds a glow wherever the thought travels. Law governs its action, and God himself fulfills its promise. I challenge you today. I challenge everyone here today to become a mindful thinker, to regularly practice mindful thinking, to consciously encourage mindful thinking within yourself. I am putting this out there into the universe that everyone is touched and awakened, and I invite you to join me. Love and infinite blessings to you and to everyone in your family, everyone that you have a relationship with, whatever the relationship is. May you be a blessing to everyone in the world, including yourself. Namaste. Close your eyes and let us remember that God is present, whatever we conceive God to be, the great creator, the sustainer of life, the unconditional love, the presence of love itself. God is not loving, God is love. God is pure love. That pure love manifests as loving. But God is pure love. God is infinite wisdom. God is omnipotence, total power, the ability to do more than our imagination is capable of bringing forth. That's that presence that we acknowledge right now, that presence of unconditional love, wrapping around every one of us and radiating as we open to express that love, as we open to let that love be used and to use us as centers of God's love. As we speak these words, as we acknowledge this presence, we first take care of the center, which is where we are. Right where we are, we make that shift. We open ourselves to be the presence of that unconditional love. And I declare that as we do that, our lives begin to bear fruit. We begin to see improvements. We begin to experience more joy, more peace, more abundance, more help, more desire for that which is good for all. A world that works for everyone in a way that is constructive, in a way that allows everyone to advance, not in a way that takes advantage of some and gives the advantage to some. A way that works through us individually and collectively for the benefit and blessing of all humanity. I know that this is true for each one of us, and we allow this now to begin to multiply itself through our actions, through our thoughts, through all that we express and all that we intend. I declare that this is taking place right now in our hearts. Mindful thinking, mindful, heart-centered thinking is taking place. There is love all around us because love is what we are made of. I know that all is well, and I invite you to join with me as we say together, and so it is. Amen.